Oh, lay it on the line, talk through my problems, let's try resolving them. Oh, should we even try? Meet me halfway, and I'll give you time. Oh, lay it on the line, show me your heart, and I'll show you mine. If we want this, if we need.
Hey guys, welcome back to Lay It On The Line. It's your girl Jamila, and today I have a special guest. I have Mr. Michael Coleman here, and Mr. Michael Coleman is of Harris County. He's running for a Constable Precinct 7 position. Mr. Coleman.
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself right quick.
Sure. I'm a native Houstonian, born and raised right here in 3rd Ward, South Park. 36 years of law enforcement. I retired 30 years with Harris County Constable Precinct 5, and I went to work for the University of Houston, left there to run for office. Graduated from Jack Yates High School.
Okay.
Sam Houston State, my bachelor's, Lamar University, my master's.
So you have a lot of education behind you.
Yes, ma'am.
I like that. So I want to go ahead and ask some questions just so everybody in the community could know a little bit more about you and know about this position that you're running for.
Sure.
First of all, what interested you in law enforcement?
You know, law enforcement to me is like sport. It's a team. It's a team sport because you need each other.
Mm-hmm.
That when I left playing football, that was my goal, to get on another team. And I went in law enforcement to change some of the things from the inside out.
Okay. So when you say change some things from the inside out, a lot of people, mostly in our community, when you say that law enforcement is a team, some people look at it as maybe law enforcement is not necessarily a team, but it's kind of like a gang. So to somebody that would look at law enforcement and say, oh, that's just like a gang, how could you correct their mentality on looking at law enforcement in a negative light?
No, law enforcement is not a gang, but you have to get with the right department.
Mm-hmm.
You have bad officers, and that's something you can't change. You see it every day. But if you're for the community, you're for community policing.
Mm-hmm.
We service the community. We're servants of y'all, the community. We're here to help. Some people don't think the same.
Mm-hmm.
When I put on a uniform, I'm not black, I'm not white, I'm not Hispanic. I'm a police officer to help people.
Yeah.
And I think that makes a difference.
It does make a difference because if somebody was to break into my house right now, guess what? I'm not going to call a gang to come help me. I'm going to call the police to come and get me. And I think that's the problem with a lot of times. Sometimes people look at the police. It's beneficial to you when you need them. But when you feel like you don't need them, now you want to have something negative to say about it.
Correct.
And for me personally, I like to see people that look like me in law enforcement because it gives me some sense of security, And I know you say that there's no color, but it just feels good when somebody comes to your door to help you and it's somebody that you can relate to.
Right.
I look at it that way. All right, that's good. Now I was doing some research online and I just want to say this. Okay, so you stated that some residents and business owners in the community have lost faith in law enforcement professionals serving them. Why do you think that has become an issue, and how do you plan to restore the faith in law enforcement?
Go back. As I stated, you have bad officers.
Mm-hmm.
It's always that saying, one rotten apple in that bunch,
mm-hmm.
and then they tend to look at everyone like that.
Mm-hmm.
Being in law enforcement, you have to have integrity, you have to have honor, and you have to be able to serve the people. And as law enforcement, we forget, we do work for y'all.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we have to learn to bridge the gap and go back to community policing. That's where you stop in the neighborhood, just talking to people.
Yeah.
You're not talking to them about police work, just interacting as a person, man to woman, woman to man, or vice versa, man to man, however you want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But talk to them as people.
Okay. Is that a part of training? Because I remember when I was a kid, our house got broken into around Christmas time. Holidays is the biggest time of the year that people get robbed and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And there was this one officer, I'll never forget him, his name was Officer Claus. When our house got robbed, my mom was a single mom with 2 little girls, all our Christmas gifts got stolen, and Officer Claus, he came by. It's funny that his name was Officer Claus. Mm-hmm. He came back and he bought us gifts.
Right.
And, back then, it wasn't, we still had, bad cop, good cop, or whatever. But for me, it made my family feel good. Like there's some good people in the world that he was able to come out and just buy us some gifts. And it probably was like some little small gifts, but to us, it meant a lot. So do you guys train on integrity, or is that just something in the interview process when hiring a police officer that y'all look for?
There's classes or trainings you can send people to, but the bottom line is you have to want to serve the people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's instilled in you. You know, some people are not instilled like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's community policing what the officer did. Because that's your part of your community.
Yeah.
So you do have classes and things like that or training to go to, but that's instilled in you.
Mm-hmm.
It's a part of respecting the people that you work for, and that's the community.
Yeah, I like that. I know, like in my neighborhood, we have the constables that drive around all the time. I might have maybe not stopped completely at a stop sign. You know, don't know if I did or didn't. We're just gonna say that I probably didn't. And police pulled me over. Was a nice guy. He was like, "Do you know why I pulled you over?" And of course, I'm like, I don't know why you pulled. I don't know why you pulled me over. And he told me, he was like, "Yeah, you kind of rolled through that stop sign." And I didn't feel scared because I wasn't riding dirty or anything like that. But it was just like his energy was just like, just want to take your time, slow down, So like a lot of times, like sometimes police officers, they can be a little aggressive. But just coming up to my window and just asking me in a nice tone of voice, it made me feel safe. And it made me feel like, okay, I do live in a neighborhood where the cops are not harassing you, because I didn't feel harassed.
Right.
And I think that makes a difference,
It does. For every action, there's a reaction.
Mm-hmm.
So if you approach most people with respect, they give you respect.
Yeah.
And that's what the officer did. And it's not about writing tickets.
Mm-hmm.
It's about just informing the person, do me a favor next time if you don't stop, in case you have a wreck next time.
Yeah.
That's community policing.
Yeah.
And that's what needs to be done in Precinct 7. It's not about writing tickets. It's not about putting people in jail.
Mm-hmm.
It's about helping the community.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I like that as well. All right. So what changes do you feel are most important to bridge the gap between law enforcement and civilians?
Changes, like the community policing, and you have to create programs for the elderly.
Okay.
You have to create programs for the younger generation. You have to give them something to do.
Okay.
It used to be they had after hours, a gym would open and the police would help out with security, something like that, or a church would open up to have a gym, things like that.
Is that something that we have now?
No.
Okay. Is that something that you're looking forward to opening up?
Yes. That along with, we have a program which for Precinct 5 we used to work, and they still have it. Check on the elderly. You fill out a form. It's only a one-page form.
Mm-hmm.
You fill it out, and you check on the elderly. 15 minutes every 2 weeks. Make sure you're okay.
Oh,
yes.
okay. Like you just go like so my mom and my dad, my bonus dad, he's 94 years old.
Right.
So it would be like, let me just stop by their house once a week,
Make sure
welfare check.
A welfare check.
I like that.
Along with, you go on vacation.
Yeah.
We used to do vacation watches. Put information, I'll be gone for the week here and here. The emergency contact person if something happened.
Okay.
The officer go by there every day, once a day, and check, make sure nothing's broken, your house not broken into. It's simple things like that.
Yeah.
That's community policing for your community.
Yeah.
And it needs to be implemented and implement now. There's no difference between Precinct 5 and Precinct 7 area. There really isn't. Unfortunately, except for the color of our skin, more minorities in Precinct 7.
Oh, okay.
So you bring the same programs and implement the same thing for that area.
So let me ask you this question, because you mentioned that the difference is, is more minorities. Do you feel like because some people you have a lot of drugs, you have kids walking around with guns and stuff like that, would that intimidate a department from wanting to, go into the community and offer that, because maybe sometimes people might not be as welcoming?
I don't know if it intimidates, but it shouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
There again, you take an oath as a police officer. You there to help your community. Mm-hmm. You have to help your community grow. Mm-hmm. You mentioned the contract that stopped you, probably Precinct 4. Mm-hmm. Precinct 4, Precinct 5 are the biggest in the nation, not the state of Texas, in the nation. They have 500 plus officers, give or take. Precinct 7 only has 100 plus.
And Precinct 7, that's in the third ward
Third
area.
ward, South Park, Harlem Clark, a little bit of Southwest.
So that could be why the crime rate is a little bit higher, you think, because it's less law enforcement in that area?
Yes, and possibly. But it's so many things you can do to build your department. You go after every grant that brings manpower to your department. You go after every contract that can help bring more manpower to your department. That helps everybody. Everybody can't afford a contract, a deputy. I understand that. But those who can't still benefit because the deputy is still close by to make emergency phone calls. So I think that's very important. You build your department as big as you can because it helps everybody. More manpower, yes.
Yeah. So now this is a question that I'm not aware of. Now, I do know that they have it to where you can go to school to be a police officer. Maybe you have to have so many hours in college to become a police officer. So maybe I could suggest when they have like these field trips, or not even field trips, like if they have like programs at school in Third Ward, maybe you guys can go to the schools and you can encourage the students, hey, take these classes and you can become a police officer, to let them know this is an obtainable goal. Like, you can be a police officer. Because maybe some people think like, I don't know, maybe I can't be a police officer for some reason.
Correct. You know, I would like to see a lot of the younger generation now join law enforcement. Because where you're going to change is from the inside out.
Yeah.
Everybody doesn't want to be a police officer. I get it. And it's not for everybody. But those that want to, think they have an opportunity to do that. So you can go to HCC, they have a police academy. University of Houston downtown has a police academy. You can put yourself in. And my goal is also to, when I get in office, if they have 4 or 5 people, I will sponsor to do that. That want to be police officers.
Okay, well, I'm going to keep that in mind. I'm going to ask my son if he's interested in being a police officer, and you could sponsor him for doing that.
Sure.
I don't know if he would be interested in it, because I know it seems like a very scary job.
It's either you have it or you don't.
Yeah.
Because you got to have the mentality, because you're there to help people.
Yeah.
And that's the most important thing you need to understand. It's not about putting people in jail. It's about helping your community, helping people.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so I want to address something. There was some rumors from one of your components, and his name is James Phillips. He said that you were fired from your job.
Yes, ma'am.
Would you care to
Sure,
speak
I'd
on
love
that?
to address that, because here's my retirement card. If you're fired, you can't be retired from somebody.
Okay.
You know, this is from 30 years, Harris County Constable Precinct 5.
Let me get you to look into that camera right there. For all of you guys who were
this
falling
is my
for those
retirement.
rumors.
Yeah, and I don't go negative. That's just not for me. Here's my retirement card, and you're welcome to call them. 281-463-6666. And also the University of Houston. You can call there. That's the main campus. That's Chief Moore. Call him. They'll verify. You know, I retired. So I don't really try to address rooms. I have so many good things I can say about myself.
So tell me, why should we vote for you versus your 2 components, which is James Phillips and Mr. Hicks?
Well, one, I say for James Phillips, he's been there for 18 years. What changes you're going to get after 18 years, I don't know. You're going to get the same thing for me. And I put this on both of them. I put my resume on both of them. Better educated. Have a master's in criminology. 2, experience. For the constable division, I've worked in every division and worked my way up and retired as captain. So experience is a big plus. I can walk in and run a department now. I think that's very important. 2, I specialize in community policing. Now that's something Precinct 7 needs. You need a change right now, because you got to bridge the gap between the community and the police, or it's not going to work. Because 1, I would like to bring a citizen review board with teeth, meaning they can help make changes. A lot of changes need to be done. And if you don't make the changes, you're going to get the same thing.
So within that community, when you want to bridge that together or get a community board, like, how are you going to reach those individuals to let them know that this is something that you want to do and you want them to be a part of it? Like, how do you get people that maybe are afraid of the police because of everything that's going on in the world right now? How do you get them to even open up to want to be a part of that?
Right now, for that community, churches are big.
Okay.
You got to go around to the churches also.
Okay.
2, you go to the homeowners association meetings.
Okay.
That's how you get the word out.
Okay.
And you pick good people that's going to be unbiased to get on your board.
Okay.
Because it's for your community. You need 2 from 3rd Ward, 2 from Harlem Clark, 2 from Sunnyside, 2 from each area. So you have a good board. And come in and look at certain things and help make changes for the community. Because we're all in it together as one.
Okay.
And we have to change the way we think. You know, response time in Precinct 5 averages 3 to 5 minutes.
Yeah. Am I Precinct 5?
You Precinct 4, but same thing. Precinct
Okay.
4 is huge.
Okay.
But the response time in Precinct 7, maybe 2 hours.
That makes
Or the
me
next
think
day.
about the movies that you see on TV. And it's comedy. You know, like you have to call and have a different accent when you're calling for the police when you live in those areas.
Correct.
And that's really sad.
And I always give this example. Precinct 5, you can have a Intex driver with an Intex truck.
What's an Intex driver?
Intex, gas meter, just running the gas.
Okay.
He can park his van, get out to go check something. They see it on his shirt, big as day, but they call a suspicious person because they don't know what's going on. Precinct 5, 3 to 5 minutes, you're normally going to have an officer there to check it. Now, you take a scenario. In Precinct 7 area, you have someone pushing a 50-inch TV in a cart down the street, call the police. They may come within 2 hours. They may come the next day. Something's wrong with that picture.
It's definitely something wrong with that picture.
So we're getting less in Precinct 7. And
let me
we
ask
need
you
to
this
demand
question.
more.
If it takes them that long because it's somebody pushing a TV down a cart, what's the scenario if I call and say somebody's breaking into my house? Please don't tell me that it's 2 hours response time.
I had a lady I spoke with, and she was very upset. She said some people was pointing a gun at her kids coming down the street.
Okay.
She called, I think it was like 5:50 p.m. Frantic, of course. They showed up the next day at 6 a.m. She had some choice words for them.
I'm sure she did.
That's unthinkable.
Because just imagine if the person that's pointing the gun at those kids had actually shot at her kids.
Correct.
And she probably would have did better just taking her kids somewhere herself. But you're thinking like, okay, if I'm calling the police, they're here to serve and protect. Why didn't they care about me enough to come out here to see what was going on? That person should have been arrested. But now they get away. And now that they got away and they didn't shoot my kids, they probably going to go do something and harm somebody else when it could have been stopped right here.
Correct. It's visibility and response time that really needs to be ramped up in Precinct 7.
Yeah, that's very horrible. Okay, so for everybody that's watching this podcast right now, if you live in Precinct 7, you go to a church, especially if you go to a mega church that have the funds available, or in the neighborhood for the HOAs, and you want to be a part of this movement that Mr. Coleman has right here. He's given his phone number. So if you want to give your phone number again, how they can reach out to you.
Sure. So
that we can get these boards formed together so that we can make your community more safe for you.
it's just to go to my website. It's voteformichaelcoleman.com. My phone number is listed there, my background, all my information, my bio, everything is there. Just give me a call, send me a message, and I'll respond.
All right. So he's letting you guys know that he is open and he's available to talk to you guys, to make a plan and execute that plan so that your area, your community, your children, your family can be safe. All right. So what does winning this election mean to you?
It's winning is changing Precinct 7, my community, where they think, making it better. Sometimes you have to step out somewhere to step back in to know this is not right. My goal is to make it better, make changes, bring community policing, bridge the gap between the police and the people. Mental health is so rampant in Precinct 7. They need help. You need a mental health squad in Precinct 7. Because you see someone walking down the street, no shirt on, at 20 below or 20 degrees, something's not right. It's not put them in jail. Yeah. Let's get them help. Yeah. I think it's very important. I think in law enforcement, we think we have to put everybody in jail. That's the wrong mentality. We're there to help. So let's get them help. And I think that's very important.
That's funny that you say that. I have a brother, and he does have some mental health issues. And my dad was telling me the story. He lives in Missouri City area. I'm not sure if that's the same.
That's part of my, a little bit of Missouri City is part of my area.
Okay. So, and you might have seen this story. I actually saw it on Facebook because there's this lady that goes around and she records and she posts the stuff. So, I think a neighbor said that my brother was waving a gun, or he had, my brother does not own a gun, but he does have some mental problems. So they called the police, and he was in the house, and the SWAT team came out, and it was the whole neighborhood full of SWAT team vehicles, and they did a standoff, and they broke down the door and pulled him out the house, and he had no shoes on, and they handcuffed him and walked him to the ambulance, and they put him in the back of a police car and arrested him. And he's still in jail right now. No weapon was found in the house or on his person because of this. So when you say that mental health is important and that people need to get help and not just go to jail, I think like even when sending people to jail, I think some people are not being rehabilitated the way that they need to be once they go to jail. You know, like what is the purpose of putting them in jail? If they're not there for the rest of their lives, we still need to offer some type of mental help for these people because they will eventually be released to society. And are we helping them or are we hindering them for being...
Put them in jail.
Exactly.
Right.
You know,
a lot of the mental health either can't afford the medicine or don't like the medicine that they're on, the way to make them feel.
Yeah.
There's so many different type of medicines, but you have to work with them. And I think that's very important. And that's something as police officers that needs to be addressed in our community badly.
That's something that I've talked about on my podcast before. Within our community, a lot of people don't believe in seeking counseling.
Right.
They like to suffer in silence. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know that you went through something or you're going through something and you don't try to get help, and it doesn't make you better just by sweeping it underneath the rug. So a lot of times we need to identify the problem. And I think that's what's going to make you great for this position, because you have already identified the problem and you found a solution, and now we just need to get support behind you so that we can see this, unfold in a positive way. All right, so I have 2 more questions for you before we bring this interview to an end. If you could leave a lasting impression on our viewers, what would you want them to know about you?
Now, I'm about the community, and I think that's very important to me. It's about changing the narrative, the way we do things, the right way. We're not getting what we deserve in Precinct 7. So that's one of the biggest things. I want to change it and make it better for the people. That's important to me.
That's very important. I'm just loving your energy right now, because that is something that we definitely need. Not just here in Houston, but just like in the world. Like I tell a lot of people, there's so much negativity that's going on in the world. And, all the times when we see these videos, and I'm going to give you an example. We see the videos, we have the George Floyd, the police officer, put his knee on him and he couldn't breathe. That was unfortunate. But I have a friend who had a son that, I don't know if he was having a mental breakdown, if he was on drugs, but he was attacking the officer or being aggressive towards the officer. But the officer didn't want no problems. He understood that there's something wrong with this young man, and he was there asking, hey, can y'all please help me? He didn't want to hurt this young man. But the way that society would have you believe police officers are all the same, especially when they're not of the same race, that's not always true.
No, it isn't.
And my friend, she was so blessed that her son wasn't hurt in this scenario, because it was 2 other civilians that was by. They came and they helped hold him down to where he wasn't harmed, and the police officer was able to apprehend him without hurting him or taking his life. So it is good people, it's good police officers, and it's people that know, like, I'm not going to treat you like a suspect. I'm not going to treat you like a criminal. I'm going to treat you the way that I would want somebody to treat me or treat my son or my daughter if they were in this scenario. So let me get to my last question. And this is my last question that I ask all of my guests. Now, with you sitting here with, 36 years of experience in law enforcement, with your education, with you going to school, with your bachelor's, you have lived a good life thus far. if you could go back to your younger self, what would you go back and tell your younger self?
You know, my younger self. Stay focused always. Stay focused.
Stay focused.
Yes.
Okay. Do you think that your younger self would know how to receive that tip?
No, that I don't know. You know, to me, I've always been a leader, so I've never been a follower.
Okay.
But, you know, sometimes being younger, you go off the path, you know, just stay focused on what you want.
Right.
I think that's very important.
Did you always want to be a police officer?
After no.
Okay, so what made you want to become a police officer?
Well, after sports, I was big in football.
Okay.
You know, and that was my goal. I'm going to make it. You know, coming out the neighborhood, you know, that's, as African American, that's where you're going to make it.
Yeah.
Well, it didn't fall the way I wanted to, you know. So I said, okay, what else do I need to do?
So your plan B?
Plan B was to join a team, and police work to me was a team to help people.
I could see that, because being on a football team, you have your brotherhood, and that's a team. So then you go to be a police officer. Brotherhood, you have a team.
Yes.
Okay, that aligns. Okay. So being a police officer was your plan B because you didn't make it in the NFL.
That was my plan B.
Yeah, and it's funny
that's why
that
I started
you say
so
that.
young.
Yeah.
You know,
So how old were you when you joined the police academy?
20 and a half. And you had to be 21, but you had to, they let me join because my birthday, when I
you would have
graduated.
turned 21 before you graduated.
Yes.
That's awesome. You know, like I tell my son that too. I say, to be able to find a job at a young age that you can work in, you can retire from, that's good, because it's really hard jumping from career, from job. You know, like you need some stability. So if you can get on a job that you actually enjoy and that you can work at and retire from, that's really a blessing.
It is. I've truly been blessed. I grew up, my mother, just my mother and my siblings, and didn't have really a father figure. But back then, the community, you had so many different people that would help, coaches.
So y'all had a village.
Oh man, and you don't have that anymore.
I was just on, and I'm always on social media, and I was just looking at a post. I actually commented on a post. This I don't know if it was a lady or a man that made the post, but it was a lady in the video that was saying that, basically bashing single moms, saying that single moms kind of spoil their boys and they throw the girls out to the wolves or whatever, and they make it seem like, you know, as a single mom cannot raise a boy to be a man.
That's not true.
And you need to have, and of course we do need our fathers, we do need men to show boys, but I of course did not agree with her comment, because a person is going to be who they are. You can have a mom and a dad, and that kid can grow up and be a rotten individual.
That's correct.
You know, so like to hear you sit right here and say, I grew up with a single mom, and look at you. You are a law-abiding citizen. You know, you are a police officer. You want to see good in the community. So it's like our future, our children need to see. It doesn't matter if it's just mom or if it's just dad that's raising you. You have to stay focused, and you have to know what it is that you want, because you can too be somebody successful if you come from a single parent household.
Right. And I was always taught by my mom, respect, respect. So I still say yes sir and no sir to people. Some people get offended by it, especially younger generation. Excuse me, sir. I'm not old. It's not about that. It's about the respect, the way I was raised. And that's so important. So when I say every action is reaction, if you approach people, as a police officer especially, with respect, normally you get it back.
Right. And I teach my son that. And I don't mean to sound negative in any way, just because of how things are in the world. You know, when you look at my son, he's always looked like he was older than his age. So stereotypes, you know, we have tattoos. So a lot of times people with tattoos, they tend to be a little rough around the edges. So when he started driving, I say, listen, if you get pulled over, it's yes sir, yes ma'am. Keep your hands on the steering wheel.
That's correct.
Do what they say do, because a lot of those situations turn negative because the person that's getting pulled over is aggressive and they are mad, like, why are you pulling me over? Don't be that way. Right. Yes sir, no sir. do what they tell you to do, and that could prevent so much wrong from happening.
Correct. And my son Michael Jr., he has dreads.
Yeah.
So, you know, people look at him different.
Yeah.
Very respectful kid. And I tell him the same thing. You know, be respectful.
Mm-hmm.
Let the officer do what they got to do, because your goal is to come home.
Yes.
I'll fight the battle.
Exactly.
But your goal is to come home. And I would tell any young man and woman that.
Yeah. Are y'all listening? If you get pulled over, just do what they tell you to do. The goal is to get home.
That is correct.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of young men and young women falsely don't come home, trying to fight that battle out in the street.
Man, I don't ever want to imagine that. Like, if my son don't answer the phone, I'm hysterical. Like, why did you turn your tracker off? You know, like, I don't care what you're doing, but you need to always let me know where you are, because
Right.
you just never know.
And I think a lot of departments are not transparent
Mm-hmm.
in some of the things they do. And the chief of police, Troy Fenner, which is a friend of mine, he's very transparent with his department.
Mm-hmm.
Very transparent with the people. You know, if you do wrong, you'll get in trouble.
Yeah.
And that's just the
There's
bottom line.
consequences. That's life.
That's it. I'm not going to hide it for you. You know, I'm the same way. It's about taking care of the community.
Yes, and I appreciate that. So I want to thank you so much for your time. Thank you for giving us all of the information so that we can reach out to you. Thank you so much for coming out to lay it all on the line, to let us know exactly who you are, what you stand for, what you represent, giving us your information. I do have a gift for you.
Sure, and thank you for having me.
It was my pleasure. It was my pleasure. So my show is sponsored by Who Made That Visuals and Who Made That Clothing Line, and I want to go ahead and give you this hoodie. And when you wear it, I want you to remember us.
Well, thank you.
And there's
Thank
no
you very
gang
much.
affiliation or anything like that with
It's
the
okay.
cover.
Thank you.
But thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. All right, you guys, make sure that you go out there and vote. If you are in the precinct 7, just know that we have good things coming if you go ahead and vote for Mr. Michael Coleman. He is going to make a change in our community. Thank you guys so much for joining. Lay it on the line.
Thank you.
Lay it on the line, talk through our problems. Let's try resolving them. Should we even try? Meet me halfway, and I'll give you time. Lay it on the line, show me your heart, and I'll show you mine. If we want this, if we need this, then let's lay it on.